Good morning, everyone. The cost of living is on the rise. The Labor Department says consumer prices jumped 6.2% in the past year, the highest inflation rate since 1990. Anthony Pura has more on that.
A trip to the grocery store is leading to sticker shock for some shoppers, including Dolores Sirio. What have you been noticing at the stores?
Sky-high prices.
A new report from the Labor Department shows overall grocery prices jumped more than 5% in the last year. Meat prices are up, with beef roast soaring almost 25% and bacon increasing 20%. Staples like eggs and coffee are also on the rise.
I used to shop based on what I like. Now I shop based on price and what I can afford.
It's not only food, just about everything we buy is more expensive, from clothes to used cars. Gas has skyrocketed, up nearly 50% in the past year.
I believe demand will remain strong, supply will remain constrained, and unfortunately, higher prices will be here probably for the next 6, maybe 9 months.
Supply chain slowdowns and current prices means Americans will be spending more on Thanksgiving dinner this year. Nearly everything it takes to make the typical holiday feast is pricier.
They're definitely up a bit.
Alan Arzoyan, owner of Handy Market in Burbank, California, says that includes the turkey.
This year we've seen a substantial increase in our wholesale pricing. Our fresh birds, Shelton, is up close to 20%.
But Arzoyan says demand for the store's complete turkey dinners is higher this year, and overall business is brisk despite rising prices. Anthony Pura, CBS News, Burbank, California.
Many industries are back into full swing after 2020's shutdown, and even the cost of living isn't hurting one group. In fact, it's full steam ahead as they cater to the world's elites. Ian Lee reports.
The rich and famous love their toys, and nothing says I have deep pockets like a super yacht. As the world shakes off COVID-19 restrictions, it's all hands on deck at the Spanish shipyard.
COVID situation affected a lot. Capacity was less. There was a lot of uncertainty in terms of the operations of the yachts, and now the industry is bumping.
A super yacht is a luxury vessel longer than about 100 feet. If you have money to burn, they go from $10 million into the hundreds of millions. And apparently a lot of people do. 200 have already hit the waves this year.
The industry is growing every year.
This shipyard is backlogged for years to come. But don't think it's smooth sailing once you finally get one. Owners sink a fortune into maintaining them, about 10% of the purchase price every year. And it's easy to see why.
We could have maybe 30, 40 people working for this boat at the moment.
During the pandemic, we were told we're all in the same boat. But as the COVID storm recedes, some can afford an upgrade. Ian Lee, CBS News.
Well, New York City's got pizza, Philly has cheesesteaks, and Texas is known for its barbecue. But Las Vegas has them all. The all-you-can-eat buffet has reigned in Sin City for more than 70 years, and now after COVID shutdowns, it's back. Mark Strausman traveled to Las Vegas to show us how the buffets are still the safest bet in town.
Las Vegas learned early how to satisfy any appetite. But before the Rat Pack crooned, acrobatics defied the laws of gravity, or divas demanded our adoration. 'Cause I'm your lady. Food took center stage. Now an American tradition, the all-you-can-eat buffet started here. Part smorgasbord, part trough.
Friday nights we do a seafood night. We'll go through 3,500 pounds of crab legs in one night.
Is it impressive or appalling or a little bit of both?
I think it's impressive.
Yeah, Michael Kennedy oversees this buffet at the South Point Hotel Casino off the Strip. 7 days a week, roughly 2,500 grazing gamblers eat here. It's old school Vegas value. A $9.95 breakfast includes bottomless Bloody Marys.
We are a loss leader. We're here to draw guests into our casino, and it certainly works.
Anthony Curtis publishes the Las Vegas Advisor, a monthly insider's guide to this city's limitless temptations. He says buffets here keep evolving, like Vegas itself.
A lot of it has been every next buffet trying to do better than the one before it and become the buffet in Vegas.
Which makes it like every other part of Vegas.
Vegas is the most competitive city in the world.
But starting last March here, nothing could compete with COVID. Sin City shut down. All 60 Vegas buffets stopped serving. Only 11 have reopened.
Anything you need, my friend, let us know, okay?
Including the Bacchanal Buffet at Caesar's Palace, the luxe end of gluttony. $75, the priciest pig out in the city.
Does the buffet reflect the general decadence of Vegas in general?
Oh, 100%. If you walk through our buffet, you will have exactly that sensory overload. You don't know where to start, where to begin.
If you can't find what you're in the mood for here, that's on you. 9 ethnic cuisines, 280 different dishes.
The buffets were the very first thing to close down. And then the strip closed down right after. These are one of the last things to come back now. I think it's a huge indicator that, Vegas is back.
That means 2 things. Millions every year will leave Vegas poorer, but no one will leave here hungry. I'm Mark Strassman.
The hummus is good. Yeah.
Eating myself silly in Las Vegas, Nevada.
A lot of food there. All right, when we come back, why female veterans are at risk from heart disease. Mid-morning, we'll be right back. As we mark Veterans Day, the American Heart Association is raising awareness about the challenges that female veterans face that can increase their cardiovascular disease risk. Elise Preston has one veteran story.
Returning home after deployment was difficult for Army veteran Danny Aylesworth.
I came back and didn't treat my PTSD, nor did I even realize that I had PTSD. Without the coping skills, I turned to alcohol.
In addition, a life-threatening infection caused heart failure and left the young mother in need of a transplant.
I ultimately got denied because I didn't seek help for my PTSD and I continued to drink. I definitely engaged in lifestyle choices that directly contributed to keeping me in heart failure.
The American Heart Association and the Veterans Healthcare Administration are raising awareness about the cardiovascular disease risks female veterans face.
Women veterans compared to non-veteran women, actually have higher rates of some traditional risk factors for heart disease, such as hypertension, diabetes, obesity.
Dr. Sally Haskell says female veterans also have higher rates of depression and anxiety.
Those conditions impact the brain and the body, but also some coping mechanisms, smoking or having substance abuse issues or not being able to manage their weight, and those things to increase their cardiovascular risk.
In 2018, Aylesworth had an internal defibrillator implanted, which detected 2 cardiac arrests while she slept. She eventually got the help she needed, including trauma therapy.
Really focus on that PTSD and the trauma that I had encountered that I had been avoiding.
Aylesworth has been sober for nearly 2 years, and along with diet, exercise, and meditation, she's keeping her heart healthy. Elise Preston, CBS News, New York.
For the first time in nearly 100 years, members of the public were allowed to lay flowers at the Tomb of the Unknown, one of the nation's most sacred sites. Nora O'Donnell introduces us to a very special veteran who was one of the 13,000 to lay a flower.
How many in your company?
It was 132.
How many survived?
About 8 or 9 of us.
96-year-old Darrell Bush served in the Army during World War II. He was shot 5 times during the Battle of the Bulge in 1944.
I thought one time I would be an unknown. I was one of the lucky ones.
Today, he's one of thousands honoring the nation's fallen at Arlington National Cemetery.
What went through your mind when you laid down a flower at the Tomb of the Unknown today?
It's an honor.
Was it emotional for you?
It won't hit me till I get home.
For 2 days, Americans came in uniform, brought their families. Some saluted, others hand over their hearts, and there was quiet. Except for the hourly chiming of bells and the occasional playing of taps. Thousands of flowers placed as a thank you, and when the pile got too high, service members made room for more. I came with my parents. My father served in the Army for 30 years. An honor to lay flowers at a memorial created 100 years ago to commemorate Americans who died in war and their bodies never identified.
Well, I kept thanking God that he was safe.
Bush was able to come home to the love of his life, Dorothy, now his wife of 78 years.
How do you give back?
I think you treat other people the way you'd like to be treated. Even a little difference goes a long way.
Nora O'Donnell, CBS News.
Coming up next, a law officer uses his violin to soothe and comfort. Mid-morning, we'll be right back. A Maryland violinist who has seen firsthand how music can help a community. He has been performing for older people for years. Jan Crawford finds out why he decided he could do even more to serve during the pandemic.
At practice, you can hear the talent. Not surprising, considering Alexander Strawn has been playing violin since he was a kid.
When I was 10 years old and my mom, surprise, surprise, wouldn't let me play the drums, that was my first pick.
What might be surprising, given this talent, is his day job.
I'm Police Officer Strawn.
Strawn is a cop in Prince George's County, Maryland.
I think it throws people for a loop because they're thinking, wait a second, why is there an officer here? What are you carrying? Oh, you're here to play. And
well, you don't really see, cops, in uniform playing a violin.
No.
I mean, that's just not something you see every day.
Not at all.
Strawn sees the violin as a way for people, especially seniors, to find connections.
It makes it feel like it's a warm, welcoming environment, that we're all family, and the music brings us together. Those simple notes unlock powerful memories for those senior citizens.
It was in high school he started playing for people in assisted living facilities and in hospice. After studying music in college, Strawn traveled the world on a mission with music for healing. That all stopped COVID, so Strawn put down the violin for the badge.
It seems so different. You're a violinist, and now you're a police officer.
The situations we go in are arguably sometimes the worst of someone's day. And when I played in hospice, those moments that I was part of was arguably probably the worst that person's had to experience. Being able to play for people in those situations has helped prepare me for the grittiness of the job.
How so?
Because it's a hard moment to play for someone and their family surrounding them and they pass away.
So you really haven't traded in the violin for the weapon.
Right.
You found a way to carry both.
Exactly.
He saw the power of music while playing for his grandmother, who suffered from Alzheimer's.
When I played for her, she would sing, sometimes cry.
One of her favorites, Amazing Grace.
It was something she recognized.
Yeah, something she recognized. It's almost like the fog of Alzheimer's lifted and she was able to see again. And then the disease took her right back. And
But you had those, that's so moving.
Right.
You had those moments with her.
I did.
Now, playing in uniform, Strawn hopes people will see officers as more than a gun and a badge.
I think it shows that you can be unique too. There are cops with plenty of talents. And, I'm surrounded by talent within my squad, department, station, and people don't see that. And, I hope that me playing the violin, it enables people to see a different side of police officers. I'm still working at getting better as a violinist, but now I have the gun and badge, and I'm trying everything I can to serve the community.
Serving and performing with a purpose. Jan Crawford, Bowie, Maryland.
Coming up next, the life of a stand-up comic. Mid-morning, we'll be right back. All right, we're back, everyone. One of the hottest tickets around is Nate Bargatze. Tony DeCopel met him on tour in his hometown of Nashville. His jokes are clean, politics-free, even comforting, and that's exactly what a lot of people seem to crave right now.
So this is a place you come to a lot?
Yeah. Guy walks into a coffee shop, doesn't sound like much of a setup.
Just iced coffee with cream.
But for a comedian like Nate Barretti, the smaller the moment, the better the joke.
I went into Starbucks, ordered iced coffee with milk, nothing crazy, you know, and the guy like looked at me weird. You know, like when you're like, get something in your head, you're like, I'm pretty sure he doesn't know what I said.
The story of another caffeine run got a big laugh for Barretti in the 2017 Netflix show, The Stand-Ups.
And he gives me milk with ice in it. I had to ask him, I go, what is that? He goes, milk with ice in it. I was like, what do you think? Do I look like a psycho to you, dude?
It helped launch the 42-year-old comedian into 2 more hour-long specials on Netflix.
I take my shirt off, standing there, no shirt, and this old man walks up and goes, Olivia?
And his shows don't really feel like shows at all.
I don't know who he disrespected more, me or Olivia, to be honest. I mean,
it's almost like two guys waiting for their kids' practice to finish so they can go home and have dinner. It's like just killing time almost.
Yeah.
But in a funny way.
Sometimes people would come up and they'd be like, you remind me of like my brother or my cousin or my something. And like I always remember thinking like, that's what I think I want to be. Like you want to be someone they remind you, you know, almost like they'd be like, you're a familiar face that they could hang out with.
And while many of the biggest names in comedy tell jokes that may be divisive or mean, Barretti does neither.
You know, as long as I make fun of myself and my family, I'll be the dumb one. And you can either laugh, I look at you laughing with me or you laugh at me. It doesn't even matter. But it's about me, it's not about you. I've had 3 concussions in my life, and none of them because of sports. Just living life, man, you know? Stuff happens to your head. What are you gonna do?
And politics is strictly off limits.
That's not what I'm here for. Like, there's a lot of trust that these audiences have in me, and so I don't want to break that trust.
The Atlantic magazine recently took note, calling him the nicest man in stand-up, adding he comes across as a walking Xanax, a reputation he's built one PG joke at a time since he first took the stage nearly 20 years ago here at Zanies in Nashville.
When you were figuring it out, did you try on other styles, other kind of tones?
No, I kind of stayed this way. I'm clean. I've always been clean. I can only do this accent. I can't not do it. So I could never like tone it down.
Folks here seem to like his tone just the way it is.
I didn't think of this, like that this would come. And,
his picture is even painted on the wall outside this hometown club.
A messy crash scene at Nashville's most popular comedy club.
Though his face was the only face obliterated by a dump truck last year.
I was just demolished.
Nothing, though, can take away this accomplishment. Barretti recently headlined a sold-out show at the Grand Ole Opry.
If you're a chart maker, this has been your time. You're probably doing graphs too now. Like you're probably like, usually I just do charts, but during COVID, I got pulled into the graph world quite a bit.
It marked a return to the place he once worked as a teenager, sweeping up after the crowds.
Did you ever look up at the Grand Ole Opry and think to myself, gonna be there?
It's such a legendary place that I don't even know if I thought, if I ever, it's like too far beyond your dreams.
And now you think in the reverse, you know, if it doesn't go well up there, you can always come back and...
I think they're gonna make me sweep after the show. I think
that's part of the deal.
But making people laugh has always come naturally to Nate, perhaps because it runs in the family. His father, Stephen, was a clown.
I was born, he was a clown. It was never weird to me. I thought everybody's dad was a clown.
I remember his first joke.
His first joke?
And this guy sitting there and he goes, waiter, there's a fly in my soup. And the waiter goes, don't worry, the spider on the spoon will get it. And Nathan laughed. I mean, with like tears coming down his eyes. He's laughing at this joke. He's 5.5 years old. And then he explains to me why it's funny. He starts saying, don't you, this is what makes that such a great, funny joke. And I mean, it didn't, but a light should have come on right then. What kid thinks about why something's funny?
On the night we visited, Dad was also one of the opening acts.
It's got to be Elmer's glue, okay?
A little goofiness, followed by a lot of heart.
I'm so proud of my family.
And I had to follow him doing good, and then it's emotional. And then I got to go up and I got to dig myself out of that hole.
I mean, you cry because he's your son, but also because he's doing what you once wanted to do.
Yeah, that's very, very, very true.
Do you have a theory for why Nate seems to be connecting so much right now?
People can relate to his comedy, and they relate to and he's not a joke teller, he's a storyteller.
Yeah.
And I think people sense what he's telling them is really happening is true, and it is.
I see a dead horse just laid out in this guy's yard.
Nate Bargatze's humor reminds us that we're all probably a little more clueless than we'd like to admit.
So I learned that horses lay down to sleep. I did not know that.
And that's okay.
Where are you trying to go?
Your, I guess, ultimate goal would be like when people talk about, like, because I mean, it's hard to narrow and be like one person's like the greatest. There's, you know, Pryor, Chappelle, Carlin, Seinfeld. You get all these kind of names, Burr. But you just want to be mentioned, I think, with the people at the top. Like that's the ultimate goal that I think for me as a stand-up.
And we'll be right back to wrap things up. Stay with us. All right, be sure you stay connected with us. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We'll see you back here next time.